It's time for the Joel Oriend Show on 92.1 The Team, WCKR Hornell.
Joel, I love you, and please behave yourself. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my son, Joel Oriend.
Howdy-ho, everybody. It is the Joel Oriend Show. Good morning. Thanks so much for joining us. Should be another good show, I hope, we got lined up for you. Got several guests lined up. We'll definitely hit the Bills hard here today, talking off-season. They've made several moves here in the off-season, signing Josh Norman, which we haven't talked a ton about, Mario Addison, then obviously the big signing with Stephon Diggs. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Tom Brady going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We've got that on the docket as well. We want to talk about that because, of course, that certainly does affect the Buffalo Bills. And we didn't really get to talk about this last week, Tanner, and I think this affects everybody. Now, you're so young that this is a long ways off for you, but I'm sure you've seen this because, again, what are you? You're 19 or 20, right?
Yeah, I'm 19.
19 in college, just a young buck, a whole future in front of him. Tom Brady is kind of a microcosm of this, right? So he's 43. The Patriots obviously felt like he either didn't have anything left in the tank or only for 1 or 2 years. They didn't want to take that ride with him. They wanted to move on, and they wanted to have somebody a little younger, cheaper, faster, whatever it may be. That was, I think, Jimmy Garoppolo, Super Jimmy G, but it didn't work out. Maybe it's Jarrett Stidham. Who knows? But it happens in every profession that you're just not as good as you once were. I mean, a perfect example is Mike Francesa. Now, I grew up, and Mike Francesa and Mike and the Mad Dog was a revolutionary, sports talk show on WFAN in New York City. They were a great combination. They were number one for years in New York in the afternoon and afternoon drive. Mad Dog left and went to Sirius. Mike stayed on his own and did well. Was up in the ratings for a long, long time. Mike was the arrogant, kind of know-it-all, and Mad Dog was the goofy, dumb, but he would go at it with Mike, and so then I think he got sick of that. Mad Dog did, which certainly I could understand because you could tell Mike had certainly was his number one fan. His own number one fan. So Mike, goes on this retirement tour, and then 5 months later decides, he wants to come back after they had this big, long goodbye. And sometimes in radio or any job, you don't get to have a goodbye tour. Sometimes on a Friday you get your pink slip. Whether you're an accountant or a construction worker, sometimes it comes out of the blue. Sometimes, you're told, at the end of this week or whatever, we're going to have to let you go. So it can happen different ways. Going back to Mike Francesa. Mike, if you were to watch Mike Francesa now, you would just think he's a total goofball. I mean, he's a parody of what he once was. He falls asleep on the air. He forgets what he asks. And the guy has more money than he'll ever need. It's just that he's so a megalomaniac that he needs to be on the radio, and he needs that adulation, right? He needs to be in the public spotlight. Vern Lundquist is a great announcer, right? But I grew up listening to Vern Lundquist call NBA games Celtics and Lakers. He is still calling football games, and Vern has to be. Google Vern Lundquist. He has got to be. He's got to be at least 70. I know Brett Musburger just signed a contract to do the play-by-play for the Vegas Raiders. He's 80 years old. I grew up watching Brett Musburger on CBS with Jimmy the Greek in a pregame show when I was like 10 years old. He's 80 now. ESPN had to let him go. I mean, as you get that old, and it's not to be mean, it's not ageism, but your mental faculties kind of go in just the way you talk and stuff. And I get you love what you do, but at some point you have to decide, I love what I do, but am I hurting what I did when I was at the top of my game?
That kind of reminds me of Phil Jackson when he was on the Knicks, because, this is a guy that coached, guys like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, won 11 NBA championships, but by the time he got to the Knicks, it was just a disaster. There was a report, Jay Williams said that during the 2017 draft, a prospect came to him, a lottery prospect came to him and said that Phil Jackson was falling in and out of sleep during his workout. So I can see where you're coming from there, you know.
Because you remember Phil with the Knicks more than you do the Lakers or the Bulls. So that's what people your age remember of Phil Jackson. And he was literally, he might as well have had a ski mask on because he was robbing James Dolan of that money. He was not doing anything. I mean, he was just totally in it for the money. He didn't care. And so if you ask me, that's what a lot of people remember. That takes away from what Phil did. Were you able to find Vern Lundquist?
Yeah, he's 79.
79 years old, and he's calling games for Fox still. I mean, are you telling me there's no one younger? Now, he's not the number one team with Schlereth, but he's like the second or third broadcast team for Fox in 2020. He's 79 years old. I mean, there's got to be younger broadcasters. I love Vern, but he's not what he was, though, and he just either there is no one younger that's good and they all stink, okay, or I don't know, they just can't walk away. A perfect example, I was a huge fan of Pat Summerall and John Mannon. They were a great team as I was growing up listening to them, right? Well, as Pat got older, again, yes, broadcasting isn't very physically demanding unless you're us and you have to haul, equipment up to the top of high school bleachers. But when you're working for Fox and CBS, right? I mean, you're not hauling your own equipment. You're taking an elevator and you're putting your headset on, right? So it's not physically draining. I get that, but. So Pat Summerall, at the end of his run, again, a Hall of Fame broadcaster, right? At the end of his run, he was. Like it was. I remember it was like a Cowboys-Giants game, right? And the Cowboy coach had his coat on, right? And he has a big D on one side of his coat, right? And so Pat Summerall. So the Giants are beating the Cowboys real bad. This is many, many years ago. I mean, Pat has since passed on, bless his soul. But Pat did have let's be honest, Pat did fight a drinking disorder, and certainly not to make light of that, but that might have been part of it as well that didn't help him at the end of his career. So the Giants are beating the Cowboys bad. So they pan to the coach, and the coach has just got like his head down. I forget who the coach was at the time. Maybe I'm feeling like it was Wade Phillips, but I think it was before Wade. It might have been like Campo or Dave Campo or something. And the coach has got just his head hanging, right? Because it's just they're getting blown out. And Pat Summerall goes, I tell you what, the Cowboys, it's definitely not their day today. That D on his coat just stands for bad today. And then he had a live read for The Simpsons following the game, okay? Now, mind you, it's on the screen, so you can see what it says. He says, coming up immediately following this game, it's The Simpsons Chinooka special. It was Hanukkah, but it could look like Chinooka, I suppose. And so, again, when you're insulated like that, who wants to go to Pat Summerall and say, Pat, that's not Chinooka, it's Hanukkah? Who wants to go to Mike Francesa and be like, Mike, people are picking on you. You're a shell of yourself. Believe me, I've worked with people like that in radio where they are on the other side, right? They're on the other side of the hill, and you respect that they've worked 30 or 40 years, but they're not keeping up with the technology. They can't do what they once did, and so there's some people that don't say anything, and then they pick on them behind their back. And then, if you're like me and you try to tell the person because you don't want to do that, then you're the jerk because you're the only one telling them that, they're not what they once were. So an actor once told me this when I interviewed Michael Douglas many years ago. He said there's 5 stages to everybody's professional career for the most part, whether you're an accountant or a musician, a band, or an actor or whatever. Number 1 is who is so and so. Number 2 is get me so and so. Number 3 is get me a so and so type or someone like that person. Number 4 is get me a younger, cheaper so and so. And number 5 is I remember or I don't remember so-and-so, right? So those are basically the 5 stages of your professional career. And, Michael said you work hardest at number 1 because you want to be known. Right, and you want to be famous, and you want to be one of the best in your industry. Number 2 and 3, some people are so driven and work so hard that they don't get to reap the benefits of being at the top of their game and being wanted. Some do. Some are able to enjoy it and enjoy the benefits and the perks of being at the top of your game. But a lot of people that are so driven are just so focused, and they don't realize around them that they are at the top of their game and that they are the best in their business or industry. And then 4, you start to feel like, you're being replaced, as it says, give me a younger, cheaper. And then 5, you sit back and think about 2 and 3, because those are really 2 and 3 are the best times in your career. I mean, you're at the top of your game. So you can see that, right, with Brady. I mean, he's to the point now where it's get me a younger, cheaper Tom Brady, right? Let's just hypothetically say he's really bad, right? Let's say he throws more interceptions than he does touchdowns the last couple years. Now, granted, it's only a 2-year contract, so it's not like he's going to play for another 10 and be really bad. But that's going to kind of be the lasting impression if he goes out and he really struggles. When they say, I remember, one of the first things they're going to say is, I remember Tom Brady when he threw 25 interceptions with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? Or whatever. Now, if he wins a Super Bowl, then that will be maybe the lasting impression. And it'll be, I remember when, Brady went to the Buccaneers and, he won a Super Bowl in his second year or whatever. I've seen people work, at a place for 40 years, and it's just kind of like they're gone like that. And it's, you just, because they wouldn't learn how to use the email, and they wouldn't, they're still doing, stuff pencil and paper, because that's the tried and true way. And it's sad to see that, but businesses have to say, and a lot of businesses don't want to let those type of people go because they've been there for so long. But it comes to a point where you have to say, we need to move on from this person. And if you're unwilling to adapt and adjust, then you become, it puts the person in charge in a tough position of, okay, this person has so much equity and they've done so much for this place, this business, right? But they're now hurting it. Then it's such a hard spot. So that's kind of where the Patriots came in, right? It's now do we just stick with Tom Brady because he's Tom Brady and we just let him play until he's 50 like he wants to? Or do we have to say, we appreciate everything you've done, Tom, but it's time to move on. So I think what Tom is experiencing is what a lot of people will experience in their career. So what I'm asking is, Tanner, and it's hard to know, right? Would you rather leave when you're on top, even though maybe you still feel like you've got a lot left more to do, right? But you say, you know what, it probably can't get any better than this, but I love this with all my heart, whatever it is you're doing, right, your job. But this is I'm starting to maybe not quite hit on all cylinders and do everything I once was able to do and walk away yourself. Or do you want to hang on until the bitter end, until the place you work for finally has to say, listen, we appreciate everything you've done, but you just aren't getting the job done anymore, and we've got to bring someone else in?
So it's pretty much, do you want to be the hero or live long, or die a hero, or live long enough to see yourself become the villain?
Right.
I mean, I probably would, I guess, live long enough to see myself become the villain, because even, if Tom Brady goes on to throw, like 20 interceptions every year for the remainder of his career, I still feel like people that grew up with him and were watching him right from the get-go will always remember him as Tom Brady, who just dominated the entire league. And, they won't remember the Tampa Bay Tom Brady that's out here throwing turnovers like it's nobody's business. I think a lot of it is perception. Right. So,
Yep.
It depends, when you grew up with him, because like if you were right around from the beginning, then you'll always remember him as Tom Brady, the guy that destroyed everyone and won every Super Bowl for about 20 years, rather than, you know, the tail end of his career. Like when you think about Joe Montana, you think about Joe Montana in a 49ers uniform. You don't really think about you know, Joe Montana, the Kansas City Chief, and same for a lot of these other guys. So I guess I would, you know, rather hang on to the bitter end, even if I'm not what I once was, because I would hope that I was, you know, remarkable enough in my prime that people will remember me for that.
Right. And you know, when Joe did well, I mean, he went to the AFC Championship game with the Chiefs, but like you said, it was a short period of time. And I think as long as it's a short period of time where maybe you're not at your prime, even if he's not great with the Bucs over these next 2 years, it's not going to be like a whole generation is going to remember Tom being bad with the Bucs compared to being great with the Patriots. But if your downslide is 10, 20 years, you know, it's a whole new generation that just remembers you for the end of your career and not for the prime and the meat of your career. So I think you're right. As long as, you know, it's not too long, then I think you'll be okay. And I know it sounds like I'm piling on, but I really feel bad when I see this happen, whether it be, you know, in my real life or, you know, with celebrities, athletes, even politicians. I mean, look at everybody who's running for office, you know, President Trump, Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders. These guys are not spring chickens. They're in their 70s. I think Joe Biden is 78 years old. I mean, don't you want to just slow down? Don't you want to be able to enjoy having worked for so long that you can now just sit back and rest, spend time with your wife or your kids or your grandkids or whatever it may be? I appreciate people want to serve their country or continue to do what they love so much, but at some point, you know, if you don't have to work financially, sure, maybe do it, tinker around a little bit, but maybe let that next generation kind of feel like they have a say and that they can buy in on the future of the country and that they can take a role in it. Sometimes, you know, the baton, it's very tough to hand the baton to the next generation because we're just afraid that they're not going to be able to do it as good as we did. So I totally understand that, but I just feel bad when I see it in my personal life and on a national stage as well. Before we take a break, let's do the Tanner trivia, and then we'll take a break. We got some interviews to get into today. Let's do the Tanner trivia, and then we'll take a break and get someone on the horn here.
All right, so to open up the show, I've hit you with some football trivia, some basketball trivia, and I'm not much of a baseball fan, but I'm breaking out the baseball trivia today. You think you can handle it?
Yep, I think so.
Right. Well, we're about to find out here. Who was the first major league player to pitch a ball over 100 miles an hour?
Ooh, boy. Wow. All right. Who brought the heat? Is the manager of the great movie Major Leagues? Give them the heater. So who could throw it into triple digits first in the major leagues? Okay, there is your question. We'll ponder that. Let's take a break. We'll come back with more. It's 92.1 The Team.
Forget about the curveball, Ricky. Give him the heater.
Railhead Brewery on Park Drive in Hornell is open for takeout today, noon to 7 p.m. After you place an order, pull right up outside Railhead on Park Drive in Hornell, and a Railhead employee will bring your favorite pizza or beer right out to your vehicle. Railhead, they're accepting orders right till 7 p.m. Call ahead 324-3286. Order online, railheadbrewing.com.
Lomax Pro Wrench Tire and Auto Center and Body Shop are open for business 6 days a week during this corona crisis. Come to Lomax for new tire sales and major and minor repairs. Get the best fast oil change in Hornell for only $19.95. Lomax has served the Hornell area for 50 years and will continue to serve the motoring public with great values on cars and trucks. Their Pro Wrench Body Shop manager, Chris Doran, will handle your auto body work quickly and compile all insurance claims completely. Thank you from everyone at Lomax, 193 Seneca Street, Hornell. Phone 324-4440. 324-4440 for Lemax, Pro Wrench Tire and Auto Center and Body Shop.
Hi, Saver. Walgreens here. We like the way you save. Take coffee. You know it doesn't have to cost $4 a cup, so you make your own. And co-pays on Medicare Part D. You save up to $5 and get 100 Balance Rewards points on each prescription when Walgreens is your preferred pharmacy. Save smartly on Med D. Walgreens. Trusted since 1901. Copay savings on Tier 1 generic drugs available through select plans that include Walgreens as a preferred pharmacy. Points cannot be earned in Arkansas, New Jersey, or New York. Complete details at walgreens.com/balance.
Let's say you just bought a house. Bad news is, you're one step closer to becoming your parents. Soon you'll have a separate fridge in the basement, where extra groceries are exiled forever. Remember that frozen lasagna? Of course you don't. It's been down there since 2008. Good news is, it's easy to bundle home and auto through Progressive and save on your car insurance. Piece of cake. Behind the lasagna. It's very old. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Discount not available in all states or situations.
Joel, how are you, buddy? Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Chris Daughtry, and you're listening to Joel Oriend on
92.1 The Team.
Welcome back, everybody. As we try to get you set for possibly the NFL season. We don't know yet. The draft is still allegedly going to happen, but obviously in a different shape and form this year. But right now, it seems that the league schedule is on pace, but this is a fluid situation as we go forward. Let's bring in a great follow on Twitter, PFF_Eric, and he works for Pro Football Focus, PFF.com, a great website, a great place to go and get a lot of information. Let's bring him on. It's Eric Eager. Eric, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Are you guys scattered throughout the country and just work from home anyways at PFF, or do you guys go in the headquarters, but now you're quarantined? How's this thing affecting you?
Yeah, so we're about 500 or so employees, but your sort of core 50 or so, the majority of us do live in Cincinnati, where Chris moved the company. And so, we have transitioned a little bit from doing stuff in studio, working, from the office to working from home. But, we're relatively lucky in the sense that this happened right after the combine and, months before the season starts, but it's still sort of a really trying time.
Well, and you're kind of a mathematician, so can you put numbers to this? Do you think the season will go off as slated, or it'll be backed up a little bit, or no season?
Yeah, in fact, before I transitioned into football, my PhD was in mathematical biology, so I studied epidemiology and population dynamics. So this is something that hits a little bit home for me. I would say, when you're looking just at like the betting markets, for example, we don't get to more than a 50% chance of starting before a certain date until about July 10th.
Wow.
So, and that for other sports. So for baseball, basketball, hockey. So I would say, as long as we continue the course, which is a huge if, with quarantines and social distancing and the like, we should probably get, the season to start on time. But I don't think it's like more than a 75% chance. So, I'm a little bit, I get nervous, some days, but I still think we'll have some season. There might not be fans, but I do think we'll get a season, come September.
I'm so impressed with PFF because it's hard to make a name for yourself in the world of the internet. I mean, there's so many websites, there's so many, Twitters, there's so much out there on social media. PFF has just done a great job. It's kind of like just the go-to source now for so many people. I hear people, in media all the time quoting your guys' stats and information. How long has the company been in existence, and how long have you been with PFF?
Yeah, I would put it at about 2008. We have data back to 2006, but that was because we back collected a couple off seasons. And then I started doing some writing for the site in 2015. And then eventually I joined full time in 2018. So I've been with the company now almost 5 years, but in a full time capacity for about 2 years. And yeah, I mean, it's crazy that, the foothold that we've had in certain circles, whether it be Chris Collinsworth on Sunday Night Football, the coaches that have either bought, stock in the company or are just simply, part of, the process by which we, take data and and make inferences from it, or just the media and the social social networks that we've been able to build with other media companies and things like that. It's been a really exponential rise over the past 3-4 years.
And it shouldn't be a surprise, I suppose, because on the field it happens as well, where the NFL is a little more progressive and innovative. You see the offenses changing the defense. So I think coaches and the organizations in front offices in football have been more open to the analytics and the numbers than baseball. Obviously, Billy Beane leads the way with Moneyball and stuff. Do you think the NFL takes the lead on really going into the numbers and the analytics? Like you said, the coaches have really kind of embraced what you guys bring to the table.
I think baseball and baseball, like probably almost 2 decades ago, got its start there. And I think in many ways they're further ahead in sort of hiring within, front offices and the like. The thing about football that makes it so intriguing is there's a number of ways to win. And, in baseball, it's basically get on base, hit home runs, and strike batters out. I mean, that's really the only optimum. Whereas in football, there's many different, there's, the way that the Ravens played football last year, the way that the Chiefs played football last year, the way the 49ers, and I think that the analytical problem is a lot harder in football, and which is why, and the data is so much more vast in some ways, and then it's smaller in some ways since they only have 16 games versus 82 in basketball and hockey and 162 in baseball. So it's just a different problem. I would say, football has done a really good job. Basketball has as well, of engaging fans and making intelligent fans. Baseball is sort of, in a way, their fandom is sort of decreasing. Basketball and football are sort of increasing, and I think part of that is that we're just producing a product, holistically of the football itself, but also us as a company that people want to sort of dive into. And the more deep we get into it, the more we find that people have an appetite for that.
I'm objective. I don't have one specific NFL team. It makes my Sundays much more enjoyable. I don't have to live and die by one team. I'm in a little bit of a confidence pool. So really that's my only thing, is I root for the teams that I pick in the confidence pool. But my friend here, Tanner, he is a lifelong and diehard Buffalo Bills fan. So he has a litany of questions for you when it comes to the Bills. So I'm going to let him go because we could be here until next Tuesday with all his questions. So on the phone with us, it is Eric Eager, PFF_Eric. Great foul on the Twitter and also PFF.com. Go ahead, Tanner. What's your first question for him?
So the Bills have made a number of additions this offseason. They signed Josh Norman, Mario Addison, Quentin Jefferson, Vernon Butler on defense, and then most notably is the acquisition of Stephon Diggs. If you had to rate the Bills offseason on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give them?
Yeah, I think it's quite good. I mean, they did give up a decent amount for Diggs. Norman's probably at the end of his career, but that's not a terrible signing as far as taking a chance. I'd probably put it at about a 7.
And again, you're a math guy. You're a numbers guy. Do you think their numbers go up exponentially to win the AFC East or to make the playoffs now that Brady has vacated the AFC East?
I think so. I mean, the thing about the Bills, and, it's sort of a conflicting thing for us because – the Bills director of analytics wrote a stats textbook that I used to teach out of, which is kind of fun. So they actually have smart people that work for them, and they make a lot of good decisions. The one decision that we're not quite as keen on is Josh Allen because, of his accuracy issues and just sort of his ability, as we saw in the playoff game, to do great things, but also a lot of boneheaded things. So to me, it's a team that if Allen were to emerge as a pretty good quarterback or, they were to get a different quarterback, I would say that they would be easily the favorite to win the AFC East. But, currently I would put them as a prohibitive favorite because New England, it's not clear. They don't have a ton of cap space. They don't seem to be making a move towards getting a veteran QB. So I think they're going to be down a little bit. The team that I think people should be worried about is the Miami Dolphins because Fitzpatrick could probably get them some wins, and they've acquired a decent amount in free agency in addition to having 3 first-round picks come April.
And that's partly the reason I wanted to get someone on on from PFF because for some reason the Bills Mafia, again, it's been a very downtrodden fan base for a long time. They feel like PFF has it out for the Bills just a little bit, and partly it's that one, like you said, it's the Josh Allen one. Like, Tanner, his face is red and steam's coming out like he's a steam pot over here because the people in Buffalo love Josh Allen. He has started 27 starts, and this has been a popular question, Eric. I mean, when do we know, right? I mean, is it going to be midseason, a full season this season? When do you kind of know what you have at quarterback? Obviously, every year it's somewhat of a different roster, so it's not always apples to apples. I know a lot of people have given up on Rosen, and they feel like that's some people say that's not fair. He hasn't been in the right situation. But is Josh Allen, is he what he's going to be, do you think, at this point?
Well, the great thing that the Bills are doing is they're going to find out, because as you said, with guys like Rosen or even Darnold, across state for you guys, it's the worst thing that you can do for a quarterback is draft him high and not give him weapons, right? Because then you give him sort of like you give him plausible deniability. What the Bills are doing is they're putting a lot of weapons around Allen, and if he continues to struggle with accuracy, if he if he can't get his completion percentage near about 65, if he can't move the offense. I mean, last season they were improved, but they were still a bottom third of the league offense. They were worse than the Browns in yards per play, for example. And a lot of people give, Mayfield a lot of flack, but, you just take a step back and look, and you're like, wow, they had an easier schedule than most teams. They had a great defense, and to the credit of Dable and, McDermott, they didn't put Allen in a lot of positions to fail. And so he didn't. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, you look at what happened in the Super Bowl, you're going to need that quarterback to win a game that, when he doesn't have his greatest stuff, to make a baseball reference, or when your defense struggles a little bit. And so what I think the Bills have done, which is pretty good, is they've given him Stephon Diggs, they've given him John Brown, they've given him Cole Beasley, a pretty good offensive line, drafting Cody Ford a season ago and building around him to the point where if that offense doesn't get into the top half of the league, we know exactly who's responsible for it. And that's a good thing, right? Because a good motto in life is to fail quickly, right? If you fail quickly, then you can move on.
Right.
And if you don't, you have what, I remember way back in the day, Tampa with Vinny Testaverde. You draft him number 1 overall. You play him for 6 years trying to figure it out. And it's like, well, no, he stinks, and you move on. With the Bills, much like the Bears with Trubisky, I think there's a lot of parallels there. You give him weapons, you give him a defense, you find out if he can play, and if you can't, you draft high the next time.
Well, we kind of touched on it there. What areas of Josh's game do you think he has to improve to make that jump to the next level?
Because he did do a good job a season ago of limiting turnovers. He obviously, his running ability is something that's really good. But what he struggled with, and where we saw with Trubisky, and we saw, in previous years with Eli Manning's Giants in 2016 was another season where the defense carried a bad offense to the playoffs, and people got mad at us for pointing out that that's not sustainable. Same thing with the 2017 Jaguars with Blake Bortles, and then the 2018 Bears, 2019 Bills. It's sort of, there's always one team a year where the quarterback's kind of driving the car but not the engine type thing. And usually what it is we just being inaccurate, right? So we do a thing where it's called negatively graded throws, where it's not necessarily your completion percentage, it's do you complete more passes than the average quarterback would in a certain circumstance? So if you throw a bunch of short passes like Allen did a season ago, you're going to get a decently high completion percentage, but can you complete the balls over the top? And that's kind of the stuff he struggled with. So, obviously he can improve, and that's certainly something I'm open to seeing. But, he has a lot of the characteristics with Trubisky, where he just misses too many open throws. He misses too many throws that other quarterbacks complete. Whereas if he doesn't improve on that, things are going to get a little, he might struggle, say, if their defense goes from being a top 5 unit to a top 10 unit, right? And they have to score maybe 1 or 2 more possessions every other game, and he's not capable of doing it. And then 10-6 or 11-5. turns into 8-8, much like it did for the Bears.
Let me ask you this, because again, you're a great numbers guy. On the phone with us, Eric Eager from Pro Football Focus. And the numbers obviously are the numbers, and some people will say, the numbers don't lie. You brought up Eli Manning. I was a big fan of Kurt Warner's. Obviously, the story, I wanted him to go into the Hall of Fame. I followed him from the Rams to the Giants to the Cardinals. Eli has 2 Super Bowl MVPs. Obviously, after that 2011 Super Bowl, he really didn't have a great season after that. 2-part question. Do you think Eli is a Hall of Famer? And 2, outside of the numbers, just the eyeball test or the story or just the intangibles, what percentage goes into that? Because obviously it's the numbers, it's the QB rating, it's the interceptions, it's the touchdowns. But, a computer can't rank the GCB a undefeated New England team, in the Super Bowl.
Right. I mean, that's really the tricky part. And then the harder part for Manning is that he played in the NFL during a time where the raw statistics altered so much, right? Mm-hmm. In 2005, his first year as a starter, there was only 2 400-yard passing games the entire year.
Right.
And so you watch a random Sunday, there's double that, right? And so when you look at Manning, he's going to have a lot, he's in the top 10 in passing yards all time, right? But that's Dave Craig was too when he retired. Right. And it's struggle when you look at his statistics. Now, here's my take on Eli, and I don't know if a lot of people agree with me. I think Eli Manning has to be in the Hall of Fame because you can't write the history of the NFL without him.
Right.
And does that mean that I would does that mean I think he was a great quarterback? I don't think he was a great quarterback. I don't think, I think he was one of the top 5 players at the position in 2011 and 2012. And then after that, he was frankly bad.
Right.
So I don't think he is a Hall of Famer if you take out the 2 Super Bowls, but the 2 Super Bowls were some of the most iconic, sets, 60 minutes of football we've ever had in the league. And since we've only had 54 Super Bowls, that's 4% of the Super Bowls.
Right.
And he was the best player on the field in those games. Right. You know what I'm saying? Yep. So it wasn't like, Trent Dilfer, Big Ben's first Super Bowl where he was terrible and they still won. Manning was the reason that they took down Tom Brady in both of those games. And so as a result, I do think, because it's not the Hall of Great Players necessarily, it's the Hall of Fame. I think he has to make it.
Well, as long as we're talking quarterbacks here, what do you think about Tom Brady going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
I think it's a risky move for Tampa Bay, but given that they already had, Jameis Winston, who's one of the riskiest players in the NFL, it's probably a solid move for them. The other thing about Tampa Bay that's important, and again, something that numbers have a difficult time capturing, is that team has not been relevant. Their last time they made the playoffs was 2007. The last time they made the Super Bowl was 2002. The city needed to be excited about a team. We can't have that many smaller cities like Tampa Bay have, so football teams for too long, or else they start moving cities. So that it was a good move for Tampa Bay, I think, from a business perspective. And I think on the field, I think people are going to be a little bit underwhelmed with Brady relative to Jameis in terms of big plays. Like, Jameis produced a lot of big plays. He was a good quarterback in that regard. But what we're going to see, I think, very, very explicitly this year was that Todd Bowles was coaching a really good defense last year. And part of the reason they were basically a 500 team was because his defense did a really good job of backing up Jameis when he turned the ball over.
What do you think a realistic expectation is for that Bucs team next year? Because obviously you have to play Drew Brees and the Saints twice a year, Matt Ryan and the Falcons twice a year. The Panthers are a bit of a wild card at the moment with rookie head coach Matt Rule and Teddy Bridgewater. So what do you think a realistic expectation is for that team?
Yeah, it's interesting. We were talking about when Brady was deciding who to join. I think the AFC is a tougher conference to make the Super Bowl in. I think the NFC is a tougher conference to be relevant in, because in the AFC, it's Baltimore and Kansas City and then a bunch of kind of teams fighting it out, right? In the NFC, there's the San Francisco 49ers, the Green Bay Packers, the New Orleans Saints, Seattle, Minnesota. There's teams that are fighting Philadelphia, Dallas. So I think that the straits for Tampa Bay will be pretty top heavy. I think if they are good, they will compete for a Super Bowl, but at the same time, I have a hard time seeing them being sort of ho-hum. They'll either be bad because Brady doesn't have it anymore and they won't even be able to compete with New Orleans, or everything will click and they'll win the NFC South and be, in contention for a bye and for a spot, in Tampa for the Super Bowl. So that's kind of how I see it. I see it very boom or bust for Tampa Bay.
On the phone with us, Eric Eager from Pro Football Focus, PFF.com, on Twitter at PFF_Eric. And he's also one of the hosts of PFF Forecast, a great podcast if you are a helmet head. If you love football, a lot of great information, a lot of great insight, a lot of great stats, and entertaining as well. PFF Forecast. It's Eric Eager. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We want to ask Eric about the Patriots with Brady leaving, where he sees the Pats with their wins over under. Where does he think Belichick stands with his quarterback situation? Will Stidham be the quarterback going forward for the future? Is he a stopgap right now? How long does he think Belichick will coach for? We also want to get his thoughts on the Bills' needs in the draft this year. And I want to ask him about a certain quarterback who's been rumored to come to the Buffalo Bills. I want to get his thoughts on that as well. It's Tanner Saunders. I'm Joel Oriend with Eric Eager from Pro Football Focus on the line on 92.1 The Team.
Air vents, aluminum and vinyl. Give your home a look that's new.
Maybe this is the year you're thinking about investing in your home with new siding, energy-efficient windows and doors, a wonderful 3 or 4 season sunroom, a long-lasting deck, or retractable awning. Where should you go? Air Vent Aluminum and Vinyl on Main Street in Arkport, of course. They carry the highest quality products and are the experts in installation. Tracy and all the staff at Air Vent Aluminum pride themselves in their expert installation because no matter how high the quality of the products, without perfect installation, you could be throwing away your money. Invest in quality products and expert installation when you buy from Air Vent Aluminum. Call now to be put on their spring schedule. Air Vent Aluminum on Main Street in Arkport for quality windows, doors, siding, decking, sunrooms, and awnings, and always expert installation. See their website, airventalum.com. Open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. or Saturdays by appointment. Call 607-295-7773.
This advertisement is being used for the purpose of soliciting sales of a timeshare plan. Restrictions apply. Go to westgateterms.com for complete offer terms.
I took my family on a vacation like the one you're about to hear about, and we had an amazing time. And the best part about it was the price.
If you're looking for an amazing, fun-filled vacation for you and your family for an unbelievable price, keep listening for details on how you can get a fabulous 4-day vacation for just $99.
Hey there, budget-minded travelers. Want a 4-day vacation package for just $99? Be one of the first 100 callers right now to Westgate Resorts to book this amazing offer. Westgate Resorts has your next dream vacation for just $99. Call right now to learn more.
Call 800-883-1612. 800-883-1612. 800-883-1612. Again, that's 800-883-1612.
Paid for by Westgate Resorts.
Hi, this is Dr. Phil. The new coronavirus called COVID-19 is spreading in China and beyond. While CDC is working to stop the spread of the virus, we can all play a role in stopping this deadly disease. The CDC Foundation is a nonprofit organization supporting emergency response efforts in the United States and around the world. To get updates and learn how to protect friends and loved ones, find out how to help by going to cdcfoundation.org.
It's the Joel Oriend Show.
Hey, quit calling the plays, all right?
Hey, we got to run the six down.
Let me pass, block. We'll run the ball.
Can we run it down there?
Just play.
We run it down.
Yeah, Jeff,
okay, so
we will. All right, when we call pass plays, block.
On 92.1 The Team.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in, spending a little part of your weekend with us. Don't forget, if you miss any part of today's show or any of the past shows, you can go back and listen to them. All you got to do is go to AM 1480's YouTube page, and all of our past shows are up there. So you want to listen to an interview again, or maybe you missed an interview, you can go back and check that out. And the Preet is On is up there as well. And all I can say to the fans of this show is you need to get on. That's right. Oriend Nation, that is. You need to start getting on there and watching some of these shows. The Preet is On is beating us in some views in some weeks, fans. Come on. I'm not going to stand for that. Now, come on. I know you're out there, and I know you're dedicated, right? We are an Oriend Nation here. We are one, a show of one. Me, you, and Tanner, a show of one, right? We can't do it without you. I want to see some views on the YouTube page, okay? We cannot let the Pre Is On get more hits and views than us. Now, granted, Dave is from this area, and Dave's a much nicer guy than me. I understand that. But we need to prove that we are in solidarity and one team here. That's right. The Oriend team, okay? Because right now, the Preet team is beating us. And as my old Grandpa Green always said to me, it doesn't matter if you win. It matters how much you win by, okay? I'm just saying that's an insight on the mindset, okay, of how competitive I am. So I hope you can be part of it and continue to help build this show. Because, again, without you listening, it'd basically just be me and Tanner hanging out on a Saturday, having a conversation with each other. And if that's the case, I can think of 1 or 2 or 3 million things I'd rather do than just be sitting here and talking to myself and Tanner. You're the ingredient that makes the recipe successful. You're the straw that stirs the drink. On the phone with us, we have Eric Eager from Pro Football Focus, PFF.com. He is on Twitter at PFF_Eric, and he is one of the hosts of PFF Forecast, a great podcast. Let me ask you, what's your thoughts on the Patriots losing Brady? It looks like they're going to stick with Jarrett Stidham for right now. Your thoughts on their win total this season and the Pats overall?
Yeah, I've seen it anywhere from 9 to 9.5, maybe 8.5 some places. I think under that is an extremely good play, right? Because, right now there's a lot of it baked into that number is the chances that they're going to acquire Cam Newton or Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston. And to me, you look at and I wrote about this on PFF.com. I think Stidham and Hoyer are the perfect quarterbacks to tank with. And I know Patriots fans are going to be upset to hear this, but this year you have under $2 million in cap space, from what I can tell. You don't have a second round pick because you traded it from Mohamed Sanu. Next season, though, they're slated to have $100 million in cap space and double-digit draft picks. It just makes too much sense to play this season out and let get a pick in the top 10, get a pick in the top 40 in the second round, and then and then go after it, right? Maybe make a trade for Deshaun Watson once he plays the season without DeAndre Hopkins, or draft somebody like Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence in the first top 5 picks or so of the first round next year. It makes too much sense, and as a result, there's a chance that the Patriots start the season 1-6. And that over is basically dead right away. And so I would go. Unders are always better. If you're trying to bet over unders, you add them up. They add up to more than 256. So under is always better because every fan likes to see their team go over. Right. But even in this case, I think it's even the better play just overall.
Do you think Belichick is in this for another 5-6 years so that he can prove he doesn't need Brady, just like Brady is trying to prove he doesn't need Belichick?
The cool thing about Belichick, though, is he has that equity, right? Almost no one in the NFL has the ability to tank for a season and not have it affect their their stature.
Sure.
And so I don't think it's they're the smartest, if not one of the smartest in the league. I think that they'll probably rebound relatively quickly, where he can convince management and convince himself. Basically, that this is a 1 or 2 year thing as opposed to a 5-year. Movement.
We touched upon this when we talked about the Bills, and there's been rumors, and Bills fans have said we want him at the right price. Cam Newton, and I get what you're saying, right? If you had a great quarterback that you could count on, the Bills probably, their numbers go way up, and they're even a bigger favorite. I think bringing in someone like Cam or Andy might be okay because, he didn't win a whole ton, but he's a middle-year-old quarterback, kind of. But my fear is if they bring in a guy like Cam or somebody who has some equity, right? That if Josh has one or two bad games, the media and the fans are going to start to get restless and say, geez, we got an MVP on the bench. Maybe there starts to become division in the locker room. I mean, Bills fans certainly know that. Doug Flutie and Rob Johnson, it's not apples to apples. But, Eric, do you agree that bringing a big-name quarterback in for a backup behind Allen is a bad thing, or maybe it causes Allen to step up and the competition only helps him to improve?
Yeah, I mean, part of me is always saying, okay, well, if your quarterback struggles with competition, then he's probably going to struggle. But another part of me says that maybe somebody who, a former starter who's struggled before can tell, Allen how to avoid some of the pitfalls he had. It's sort of a really interesting question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I want to talk a little bit about the draft here. The Bills do not have a first-round pick. They traded it for Stephon Diggs, but they still have a second and then a couple later-round picks. What other needs do you think they have to fill in this upcoming draft, and maybe some players that they could fill those needs with?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I think it's always a team can never have enough defensive back help. So that's always something that they should look into. We had them prior to the trade in our mock taking an offensive lineman. I know Cody Ford was drafted a season ago, but he struggled. There are some guys like Ezra Cleveland, Matt Carrot, players like that they can probably get in the second round. Maybe they'll have to move up a little bit, but yeah, that's kind of like where I would take it if I were the Bills.
And finally, my last question for you, Eric, is statistically, where would you rank them in regards to positions, in regards to importance? Is it quarterback, wide receiver, DB? Is it quarterback, wide receiver, edge rusher, offensive lineman in there? Where statistically is the importance on the skill positions?
Yeah, we just talked about this on my podcast, the PFF Forecast, which is on iTunes and YouTube and things like that. We rank them. We go quarterback, usually wide receiver, DB, tackle, and then edge are the positions. That's sort of how we would rank the hierarchy there.
That makes sense. And I certainly encourage, I've listened to PFF Forecast, great podcast, extremely informational, entertaining as well. We appreciate your time, Eric. It was great talking with you. You're extremely knowledgeable, and we wish you the best of luck, and maybe we'll get to chat again.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, there you go. Eric Eager of PFF.com. He's on Twitter at PFF_Eric, and PFF Forecast is the podcast, and that's a good podcast. I've listened to that a few times to get some information. So there you go, Tanner. I mean, do you feel better? Do you feel worse? How do you feel after that interview?
Well, not too high on Josh Allen, which seems to be a lot of the case at PFF, which is fine, but I still feel fine. The Bills, they have an elite defense. They have a lot of continuity on offense. They're going to be returning a lot of starters with Motor Singletary, John Brown, Cole Beasley, the offensive line with Dawkins, Spain, Morris, Feliciano, and Ford. So the continuity, as well as the coaching staff. You have a lot of the same coaches with McDermott, Brian Daboll, offensive coordinator, Leslie Frazier on defense. So I think, this is the perfect storm for Josh Allen to succeed. And I think this is where we'll find out where he's made of, because like I said, not a lot of changes with coaching staff, personnel, and with the addition of Stephon Diggs, that gives Josh Allen the true number one wideout that he needs. So to answer the question, I wasn't expecting to feel reassured after this conversation, because I know PFF isn't too high on Josh Allen, but as a Bills fan, I feel fine.
You feel fine? All right, that's good. It's a good way to feel, I guess. I suppose after a lot of 6 and 10 seasons, I guess you'll take I feel fine. I feel like, that is a song. I was going to say that should be a song. It should be a T-shirt for the Buffalo Bills. I feel fine. There you go. So very cool. And so you're good with the over-unders. You think the Bills are going to be right around 8-9 wins then?
Oh, that's too low. I was thinking 10, because they went 10-6 last year. So now you have to think they'll beat the Patriots maybe once or twice. So that could bump them up a little bit. I'd like to see them beat the Jets both times. They beat the Dolphins both times last year. Who knows if that'll happen this year, like you said, with all the free agent acquisitions and the draft capital they have. But I think right around 10-6, 11-5.
They got New England at 10.5.
Oh,
so
gosh.
People are still, it's that name. It's just Belichick. I think people are just not willing to count out Belichick, no matter who the quarterback is. So
I mean, people are just holding on to that one season where Tom Brady tore his ACL week 1, and then they came in. Matt Castle got 10, 11 wins and still missed the playoffs. I think people are thinking something like that's going to happen, but I just don't see it.
So when you look at one of the books out in Vegas, this is how the AFC stacks up when it comes to wins. Chiefs are atop with 11.5. Baltimore comes in with 11. New England at 10.5. Pittsburgh at 9. Buffalo at 8.5. Tennessee at 8.5. Indy and Cleveland at 8. Denver at 7. Las Vegas at 7. Cincinnati at 6. Jets at 6.5. Cincinnati at 6. Then the Jags and Dolphins at 5.5 each. So they have you second in the AFC East. Let's take a break. Coming up next hour, I want to give you a chance to win. Everybody being stuck inside, I want to give you a chance to win something, okay? If we can, I want to make your day maybe a little bit better. Man, like we talked about, maybe get those hits up on the YouTube channel for the Joel Oriend Show on AM 1480's YouTube page. Maybe we'll give you more things to win on the program. That's not counted as payola, right? No, that's if a record company pays a radio station to play their music. This is actually the opposite of that. I'm actually trying to bribe the listeners to listen to me. It's listener payola or something like that. But with everybody being quarantined and stuck inside in isolation, let's do a little reverse radio, or a little living room radio, as I like to call it, and give you a chance to win. Break up the monotony of being stuck inside during COVID-19. If you want to get in on a contest, you can always text us at 363-TEAM. That's 607-363-TEAM. Or you could email us at 921theteam@gmail.com. That's 921theteam@gmail.com. Email us your phone number. We will give you a call, and we'll play a little game with you here on the radio. Have a little fun. Got a great interview lined up for you next hour. You're going to want to stay tuned for that. And Tanner, let's revisit the Tanner trivia question here, shall we? And see what's the brain buster sports question today.
Who was the first major league player to pitch a ball over 100 miles an hour?
All righty, there you go. The first person to throw the gas, the heater, the 3-digit dominator. Think about that. We'll give you the answer in a little while here on the show. It's the Joel Oriend Show on 92.1 The Team, 92.1theteam.com.
Worlds collide. During Ram Truck Month and the Jeep Celebration event all month at Maple City Dodge in Hornell. Buy a 2020 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo as low as $31,499. Price includes lease, loyalty, and first responder rebate. Or lease a 2020 Ram Warlock V6. 10,000-mile lease, only $324 a month. Plus tax and fees. Price includes lease, loyalty, and first responder rebate. While supplies last, hurry to Maple City Dodge for a test drive. Maple City Dodge, get the real deal every time.
Have you written a book? You can become a published author with Dorrance Publishing, the nation's oldest publishing services company. Countless authors have trusted Dorrance for nearly 100 years to bring their book to the market. Our professional team will edit your text, design your book pages, and create an appealing, eye-catching custom cover. Plus, our authors benefit from a custom book promotion marketing campaign that makes your book available where people buy books, like Amazon and brick-and-mortar bookstores. So make this free call right now to claim your free author's guide to publishing. Don't wait another day. Take one step closer to realizing your dream of becoming a published author and seeing your name in print. You've already written a book, so the next thing to do is make this free call right now to Dorrance Publishing and get your free guide to publishing. Call right now.
800-482-8399. 800-482-8399. That's 800-482-8399. 8399.
I am a non-attorney spokesperson representing a team of lawyers who help people that have been injured or wronged. If you've been involved in a serious car, truck, or motorcycle accident or injured at work, you have rights, and you may be entitled to money for your suffering. Don't accept an offer you get from an insurance company until you talk to a lawyer. And we represent some of the best personal injury lawyers you can find. Tough lawyers that will fight to win your case. And they're so good they stake their reputation on it by only getting paid if you win. So if you've been in a serious car, truck, or motorcycle accident or hurt on the job, find out today for free what kind of compensation you may be entitled to. Call the legal helpline right now.
800-791-4478. 800-791-4478. 800-791-4478. That's 800-791-4478.
92.1 The Team. WCKR Cornell. It's the Joel Oriend Show.
Isn't that a lie?
No.
Yes, it is.
Is not.
You know, you're pathological.
What?
You're pathological.
Truthfully, besides, if he were a liar, his pants would be on fire.
Good point. Thank you.
They're not, are they?
No.
On 92.1 The Team.
Obviously, one of the biggest stories during the this COVID thing, because there's not been much going on, but I guess we can, and Buffalo Bills fans aren't used to thanking Tom Brady for very much, but we can thank Tom Brady for finally hitting free agency and getting his walking papers and going to Tampa Bay, because it gives us a little bit to talk about, at least during this stoppage of pretty much our entire lives right now. And so Brady, TB, goes to TB, and that has been a huge story over the last couple weeks. And let's bring in somebody who can talk about it a little bit better, at least from the Tampa Bay side of things. Great work. Love reading his work. Go to theathletic.com. You can follow him on Twitter at Greg Allman as well. He is really tapped in. Let's bring him in. Greg, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me. Hope you guys are holding up all right up there.
We are. Hope you're healthy and staying distance from as many people as possible. And I'm assuming that kind of this kind of put a damper, I would guess, right, on the Brady thing. I mean, normally they probably throw a parade for him down there in Tampa, but with the social distancing, that made even him coming to town pretty weird, didn't it, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, he really hasn't made any kind of, physical, visual appearance since he's joined the team. We had a conference call. Like, normally you'd throw out all the stops and you'd have a huge press conference, suit and tie, podium, owners introducing, whole big deal, cameras flashing, and this was a conference call like you might have for a 6th-round draft pick or something.
Right, which I guess he is. That's right. So it's kind of fitting. Greg, let me ask, were you shocked that Tampa Bay got Tom, and were you shocked that maybe the market wasn't as big for Tom as I think maybe him and Don Yee thought? I don't know, maybe if the money was just too much for other people, or they were just concerned of his age.
No, I mean Tom Brady's only making $25 million this year. We spent too much talking here about how Jameis Winston might deserve the franchise tag for 27. So I don't think money's an issue if he chose $25 million for a place. In terms of the overall surprise, yeah, absolutely. I mean, in January, even most of February, I think most people were fairly dismissive of it. Just not sure why he'd leave New England. If he did, not sure why he'd choose Tampa. So I do think things kind of all fell in line for the Bucs. I mean, I think it helped that Tennessee, where I think Tom Brady probably knows the Titans a lot better, knows Mike Vrabel a lot better. They had good reason to be loyal to Ryan Tannehill and keep him there. I think some of the other options, out west, logistically weren't as good for him. Probably could have had a bigger platform, with a new team in Vegas, with the Chargers moving into a new stadium in Los Angeles. But this all kind of came together. Sure. I mean, I think it's a coach that has a good reputation of working with quarterbacks, probably has better offensive weapons than he's had for a long time, and probably just enough talent to where he feels like he has a chance to win here.
All right, Greg, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the fit. So I have a couple stats for you here. Jameis Winston averaged 8.16 yards per attempt last year, which was sixth most in the league, and Brady averaged 6.62, which was 27th. And Jameis Winston attempted 48 passes of 30 or more air yards last season, and Brady had quite a bit less than that with only 19. And Bruce Arians' teams have never attempted fewer than 26 passes of 30-plus air yards in a season. So with Tom Brady coming from this more conservative dink and dunk type of offense, going to Bruce Arians, who's a guy that likes to air it out and let it rip, what do you think about that fit?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be some adjustment on both parts. I do think Brady, in terms of personnel, was probably working with as little as he's had in his career last year. To be without Gronkowski at all for the first time, to have basically just Edelman at receiver. They didn't really have very much else. I mean, I guess you'd look at someone like Dorsett, but, injuries to key personnel. I just don't think he was working with a full deck in New England last year. If you look at his numbers in past years, it's much closer to that 8 yards an attempt to what Winston had. But I do think they'll have to adjust things. I think they have to protect Tom Brady a lot better than they had Jameis Winston, especially this past year. They gave up 47 sacks. Patriots gave up 28 sacks on 10 fewer attempts. So they definitely they have to protect him like the 43-year-old quarterback he's going to be. Right. I think they'll throw to the backs more. I think they'll throw to the tight ends more. I think they'll have a lot of input from him to make sure they're kind of using his strengths, but still kind of keeping the spirit of what Bruce Arians wants to do offensively.
Sure. So you think, Greg, the location and picking Tampa Bay was more on Tom and not the market? Because I was shocked. As you mentioned, the money was not outrageous. I mean, Rivers basically gets 25 for 1 year with Indy. The Chargers decide to go with Tyrod. The Vikings decide to stick with Kirk Cousins. Foles goes to the Bears to maybe replace Trubisky. We don't know. So it just seemed like other teams might have either been too afraid to go in on Brady, or, as you said, maybe those weren't fits he wanted. In reality, they did want him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you have the Chargers choosing Tyrod Taylor over Tom Brady here. I think, if they're likely to take a rookie in the draft, it's probably a better pairing to have him than Brady. But I don't think there's a lot of teams that were consciously choosing someone over Tom Brady. I just think the market, money probably shouldn't have been the deciding factor for Tom Brady. He's got like $250 million in earning. His wife has double that. So if he's making a move based on where he makes the most money, that's not going to go very well. Right. I think anytime you leave after you've had a run like he's had and a legacy like he's had in New England, it probably has to start with someplace you really think you can win. Sure. So, I think that's part of it. Again, I think some of these teams, Titans, others that could have been in play, went with other options, but not that he wouldn't have worked there. I think he had a good market if he wanted to go anywhere he wanted.
Right.
The Buccaneers brought back Ndamukong Suh the other day. They got him for 1 year, $8 million. What do you make of that move for them?
Yeah, they wanted to bring back their defense as close to intact as possible. Their starting front seven from last year is now all back. Put a franchise tag on Shaq Barrett. They gave Jason Pierre-Paul 2 years and $25 million. So Suh's a big part of their run defense. Part of the reason they had the number one run defense in the league last year is that teams could throw pretty well against them when they wanted. They got better with that as the year went on, but I think they want to keep that stinginess and stoutness at the line of scrimmage. And like I said, Suh's probably the biggest part of that, sitting next to Vita Vea stopping teams. That's a big keep for them. They really wanted to have him back.
Now, going back to the offensive side of the ball here, they did lose Rashad Perriman in free agency. What moves in the draft do you think they can do to try and help Tom Brady? I assume they're going to go offensive tackle pretty high, but is there anyone you have in mind that they should go after to try and help Tom Brady on the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I think that number 14 pick, that top pick, will almost assuredly be an offensive tackle. It really wouldn't surprise me if they moved up a bit from there. There's 4 really good tackles at the top of this draft. You'll see a lot of mock drafts where 3 of them or even 4 of them are gone in the first 13 picks. So if it gets to be number 10 or 11 and the guy they really like is there, I would think it would make sense for them to pair a 3rd-round pick, 4th-round pick, and move up even 2 or 3 spots just to get the guy they want. I think they could.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think they could add speed at receiver. Mm-hmm. Bruce Arians just talked about the depth of the receiver in this class, how you might still be able to get somebody in the 3rd or 4th round that's an impact number 3 level receiver. I think they could add a pass catching back. I think they have a back they like in Ronald Jones. He's probably not very strong with pass catching. So in terms of somebody who could be a third down back, a complement to Ronald Jones, it wouldn't surprise me if they used a third or fourth round pick on the back.
We'll cut you loose here in a second, play a little game over under, and then we'll let you go. But before I ask you that, there's been some okay coaches, I guess, here over the last few years for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What's it like, being a writer and following the Bucs with Bruce Arians? From afar, he seems like a fun guy and easy to work with.
Oh, yeah, makes my job easier. Very, very honest, blunt, quotable. I mean, there's never a shortage of, again, had 9 losses last year and was pretty blunt after each of those in terms of saying what was wrong. So, no, it's great. Bruce is candid. He's obviously spent a year in the broadcasting booth because he's as candid as he is. So, no, it's nice. I covered Steve Spurrier a while back, and he was much the same way and just telling you like it is. Yep.
This is a very tough division now with Tom Brady coming over. They have Drew Brees and the Saints. They have to play twice a year. Matt Ryan and the Falcons twice a year. What do you think a realistic expectation for this Bucs team is next year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Tom Brady would be here unless he thought he could win in this division. So I think most people, they're 7-9 last year. They finished 3 games out of the last wild card. But no, I think most people think this is a postseason team and a team that can challenge New Orleans for the NFC South title. And then once you get in the playoffs, they haven't done that here in Tampa since 2007. So that's a big step. And if you have Tom Brady as your quarterback in the playoffs, a lot can happen from there.
Sure. On the phone with us, Greg Allman from The Athletic, theathletic.com. Greg, and these numbers obviously are fluid. They're going to change with the draft and some free agency. I saw numbers saying Vegas had 7.5 over-under on wins, which seemed very low to me. That puts them third in the division. They have Atlanta at 8 wins over-under. So real quickly, we want to just do some quick over-under numbers for Tom Brady. Get your thought. We're going to throw out a number for you for him and a couple categories, and you just give us first thing comes off the top of your head, over or under, okay?
All right,
go ahead, Tanner.
Touchdowns, over or under 30?
I'll say over.
Okay, go ahead.
Interceptions, over or under 10?
I'll say over. I'll say just over.
Okay.
I was thinking 12.
Right.
So.
Okay, good number. Okay.
Yards, over under 4,000.
I'll say under. I mean, they threw for 5,100 yards this year. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't think they're going to be behind as much. So I'll say just slightly under.
Let's see here. How about completion percentage, over or under 62?
Yeah, I'll say over.
Okay.
Passing attempts, because I know Jameis Winston had over 600 attempts last year, so over or under 600?
I think Brady was at 620 this past year, so I'll say under, again, just because I think they don't expect to be behind and throwing as much as they do.
Right, I was just going to say that. They always seem to have to be slinging the ball in the fourth quarter with Winston.
Yeah, like that number seems high. I think people expect, I think the Patriots had only 10 fewer pass attempts than the Bucs this year, and I think most people, if you asked them, would expect a much bigger difference than that.
That's true.
I know Tom Brady loves the QB sneak, so QB sneak touchdowns, over or under 5, we'll say.
See, I just had, you say it, and I had 4 in my head. I guess I'll say under.
He does love his sneaks. Is that it, Tanner?
Yeah, that's all.
Okay, that's it. Sacks. Do you think they'll be able, obviously they had a great coach in Dante Scarnecchia in New England. They patched it together some years. What's the line look for Tom in front of him?
Yeah, it's a concern. I mean, Winston gave up 47, or not Winston, but the Bucs gave up 47 sacks of Jameis Winston this past year. I think Brady got sacked 28 times, so I think the Bucs would much rather have that lower number. Some of that is, Arians likes these deep balls, slow developing passes that have the quarterback holding the ball a little longer than you'd like. So I think they have to design themselves away from so many of those, in that if Brady takes 47 sacks, we'll be writing an obit rather than a game story. So yeah, I would say it's lower. Hopefully for them, it's closer to 30 than 50.
Sure, absolutely. When it's all said and done, final question. I think, he signed for 2 years. They go to New England next year in 2021. Let's just say he doesn't sign an extension and he retires in 2 years. If you had to bet, who has 1, if not 2 Super Bowls when it's all said and done? Tampa Bay and Tom Brady, or New England? Who has more Super Bowls in the next 2 years, I guess, is my question, if you had to bet.
I mean, it's if you're playing the numbers, it's unlikely that either of them do. Right. But as far as a shot at either one getting one, I guess for giggles, I'll say Tampa Bay. I don't know who New England has a quarterback yet. Right. So I mean, if they got Jared Stidham out there the next 2 years, it might not be 2 championships.
Do you think him and Breeze, let's say they play 4 times over the next 2 years, not counting playoffs, do you think they at least split over the next 4?
That would bode well for Tampa if they did. Yeah. I think if you split with the Saints these days, you're doing pretty well, and just try and take 3 out of 4 from Carolina and Atlanta.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, Greg, great work. Big fan of your stuff at The Athletic. We love following you, and maybe we'll get you on again sometime, okay?
All right, guys, thanks again, and everybody stay safe.
All right, yes, you too. So there you go. Great read, great follow on Twitter, theathletic.com. Great place to go. I would highly suggest subscribing and reading that stuff, checking that stuff out. So he's pretty confident, Tanner. I mean, he thinks they're going to do pretty well. He thinks they're going to be, which, again, surprises me that Vegas only has them at 7.5 wins. A lot of people I've heard in Boston, they think Tampa's going to go 14-2, 13-3, 12-4.
Yeah, I'm a little bit interested to see how he goes, because obviously it's a tough division, having to play Drew Brees, going to the Superdome, and having to play Matt Ryan twice a year, going to Atlanta. So it's going to be tough, but if there's one thing that I've learned in sports that you don't do is bet against Tom Brady, because he'll make you pay 100 times out of 100.
That is so true. Our thanks to Greg Auman from The Athletic. And right now, I forgot to mention this with Greg while he was on, a special offer for our listeners. Right now, if you go to theathletic.com, you can get a 90 days free trial for theathletic.com. Go subscribe. You'll get 90 days absolutely free. I think that's like 40% off the annual subscription fee. If you are a listener of the Joel Oriend Show, you can go and take advantage of this right now, okay? Now, granted, it's open for everybody. Okay, I get it. Technicality. But it still means that if you're a listener of this program, you can get 90 days free of The Athletic on a trial period. I think you'll fall in love with it. If you are a sports fan, if you have someone in your life that loves sports, then it would be a great present and gift, because a lot of great articles up there at theathletic.com. Our thanks again to Greg Auman. You can follow him on Twitter. He is a good follow there. Coming up, we'll have Today in Sports History. Also, don't forget, if you missed any of the interviews or you want to go back and listen, you can go to the AM 1480 WLEA YouTube page, and you can catch all of the shows in their entirety. Tanner, go ahead and let's give the Tanner trivia here. Again, it's a little bit of baseball as people are jonesing for some baseball, as opening day was supposed to take place this week. Obviously, it has not. So Tanner has a trivia question that has to do with baseball.
Who was the first major league player to pitch a ball over 100 miles an hour?
And when I think of the heater, I always think of Ricky Vaughn in Major League and Captain Lou, the manager, Lou Brown. Now, we're not going to rank our favorite sports movies. That's what that's just about what every sports talk show host has been doing now for the last month or so. But that's what I think of when I think of the heater, the 3-digit dominator. Who was the first? Talking about baseball, it almost, and I mean it almost, makes me miss and wish that I was hearing John Sterling and Susan Waldman on the radio. That's right. I know it's hard to believe. I kind of miss that Yankee yodeler on the radio, John Sterling. Him and Susan, boy, they are quite the tag team. And not only can they call baseball games, they're multi-talented. So to fill that void out there a little bit for you Yankee fans, 92.1 The Team presents the singing dynamic duo, John Sterling and Susan Waldman. singing the classics.
I use as my theme song an old rock and roll song. Oh, what a night.
Late September back in '63, that song?
Yeah.
That's Frankie Valli.
Oh, okay.
That's Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons. Oh, what a night.
Oh, what a night. I don't know why I thought that popped in my mind.
You've got to hear it as John Sterling sings all of the Yankees' biggest hits.
Salate. Oh, whoa, whoa. Salate. Whoa, whoa, whoa. He drills a 2-run home run to right.
Sterling sings smash hit after smash hit.
Second dirt. Brian McCann. Oh, McCann can. Yes, McCann can. He homers to deep right. And the Yankees take a 3-2 lead.
But you can't get these Yankee Doodle Dandies and humdingers in any store. These classics are only available on Sterling Records and in every New York Yankee fan's dream.
Hits one to deep right field. That ball is high. It is far. It is gone. Brian Roberts. Bye-bye, Brian. And the Yankees take a 4-3 lead.
Oh, and they'll throw a little baseball in there for you, too.
The pitch. And it's a call, strike 3. He painted the corner.
Auto-tune required. It's Susan Waldman and the Yankee Yodeler coming to a Red Sox fan's nightmare this summer. Maybe.
Ball game over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
An old world recipe, probably the happiest servers in the area, and without a doubt, the best Italian food. You guessed it. I'm talking about Giovanni's in Hornell.
We appreciate the kind words. At Giovanni's, we work hard, very hard, to bring you the absolute best in Italian food, from pizza to spaghetti, subs and salads, all priced so you can afford it. In fact, I doubt you could find lower prices anywhere.
No wonder people of all ages are discovering the low prices and the wonderful food at Giovanni's.
We love to see college students who return to Hornell and tell us they missed our food.
And you can actually have all that Italian cuisine delivered right to your home or office.
Just call us at 324-6000.
Did you get that? 324-6000 for delivery right to the door from Giovanni's on Seneca Street at Fulton, across from the high school. But really, only a phone call away. And they're open 7 days a week. 324-6000.
Worlds collide during Ram Truck Month and the Jeep Celebration event all month at Maple City Dodge in Hornell. Buy a 2020 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo as low as $31,499. Price includes lease, loyalty, and first responder rebate. Or lease a 2020 Ram Warlock V6. 10,000-mile lease, only $324 a month. Plus tax and fees. Price includes lease, loyalty, and first responder rebate. While supplies last, hurry to Maple City Dodge for a test drive. Maple City Dodge. Get the real deal every time.
At Indeed, we understand that when it comes to hiring, it's important to have a large talent pool to choose from. But sometimes too many good options can be overwhelming. That's why Indeed doesn't just give you access to a large pool of job seekers. We also offer screener tools that let you instantly narrow down your search. Hone in on hiring with Indeed. Experience Indeed for yourself today and get a free sponsored job upgrade on your first posting at Indeed.com/promo. Terms and conditions apply.
At O'Reilly Auto Parts, we'll help make your auto repair, maintenance, and restoration projects easier. So when your car isn't stopping like it used to, our professional parts people will help you find the brake parts and supplies you need to do the job right the first time. Now, for a limited time, get 15% off a set of Brake Best pads and 2 rotors. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hey, Joel, Michael Prenap calling from Watkins International, the most historic racetrack in the world, with Joel Oriend and
92.1 The Team.
Alrighty, a lot to get to here as the time is running out. I just heard Michael Prentup. That gives me an idea, Tanner. We should get somebody on from the world of NASCAR. Obviously, NASCAR has been shut down, but their season had started. I believe they had ran a couple weeks of the Xfinity and the Cup Series. Maybe we can get El Prez on, the president of Watkins Glen International, Michael Prentup. I've had the opportunity to interview him several times. Really good guy. I know people around here like and love going to WGI when NASCAR rolls into the Glen. And so people may have already bought their tickets. So I want to talk to Michael about what's going on. Does he know? Are they going to
Are they holding steadfast on their date of the race? Are they thinking about they might have to move the race? Will they lose the race? I know the race normally happens, I think, in July or August. If we can't get Michael Printup, let's see, Tanner, remind me. I have contact info for either Eli Gold or Jeff Striegel with the Motor Racing Network. So maybe we can get one of them on next week to chat. Also, we are efforting and trying to track down John Murphy, voice of the Buffalo Bills. Want to get his thoughts on the Bills offseason. And, of course, he's right up there at One Bills Drive. So there's really nobody more informed than him outside of the coaching staff and the front office of the Buffalo Bills. Also want to give you a chance to win before we get out of here today with a little reverse radio. We like to call it living room radio, where we flip it around and we reach out to you and try to break up the monotony of the quarantine and being isolated. So we want to give you a chance to possibly win and get involved. You can text us your number if you want us to call you directly at 363-TEAM. That's 363-TEAM. Or you can email us your phone number at 921theteam@gmail.com. That's 921theteam@gmail.com. If we don't call you this week or next week, we're going to put it into our Rolodex. And when we look to do a little reverse radio and reach out to you, we'll have your phone number. Let's go to the phones as we have another great guest on the line for you. He is an NFL writer for CBS Sports. Excited to have somebody who's part of the family, as we are a CBS Sports Radio Network affiliate. He is really plugged in. He's got a lot of connections, very knowledgeable, great follow on Twitter. It's Jordan Dejani. Jordan, how long have you now been part of the CBS Sports family?
Coming up on a year, so not terribly long.
Now, you're still pretty young, so your rise to stardom and success in the sports journalist world happened pretty quickly. You got to CBS Sports fairly quickly. Talk to me about your journey to CBS Sports.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's a long story, I guess. Just being in the sports media industry is something that was always a goal of mine. It's what I've been working towards really my whole life. So I've experienced doing a lot of sports radio, a lot of sports writing, and I worked with 247 Sports, which was an affiliate based out of Nashville, covers a lot of college, high school recruiting, and some professional. So that was a job that kind of led me to working with the CBS NFL team, and it's been an absolute blast so far.
Now, is that where you're based or from, is Nashville?
Yes, that's where I'm based. I'm originally from North Carolina. I spent some time in the D.C. area as well, but Nashville is where I call home right now.
And how is it down there? Is it nice? Have you been able to get outside and at least go for a socially isolating walk?
Yeah, 100%. It's definitely starting to get a lot warmer here, so you can tell that spring's on the way. We can put the jackets back in the closet, right?
So how's this affecting you, Jordan? Obviously, you're based there in Nashville. I don't know how much you travel to follow teams and talk to teams specifically. Is most of your stuff done over the phone and over the internet? So this might not be dampering necessarily your work, just maybe stuff to watch.
Yeah, it's kind of hit or miss, right? A lot of stuff that I do is taken care of over the internet and on the phone. But there's some traveling that's sometimes involved, whether it's covering games or talking to people. So it's the off season. So at the same time, it hasn't affected us that much. I was in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago before everything got shut down, just to spend some quality time with some friends out there, see what the plans were for really the now canceled NFL draft. So everything's gotten pretty crazy, of course. But again, the NFL offseason, it hasn't stopped, right? Free agency's been an absolute blast so far. It's been work as usual, right? So I think it's something that all sports fans needed. It's something that I know I needed. The one thing that definitely feels normal during these unprecedented times.
Absolutely. Jordan, go ahead and you're a great follow on Twitter. Go ahead and throw out your Twitter handle.
Yeah, sure. At Jordan Dejani. That's JORDAN and DAJANI. Jordan Dejani.
So from your talks, you're definitely more plugged in than we are. You have your sources and your connections with different organizations. As you mentioned, the free agency calendar is moving on and people are getting signed, and we'll talk about the Bills here and some of their moves. But is there a sense of urgency or a little sense of getting antsy, or is it, well, we're not really going to be doing any off-season activities other than this anyways, so is there not really a sense of urgency from your NFL people you're talking to?
Yeah, I wouldn't say a sense of urgency. I do feel like everyone's kind of on their heels, though. We don't know exactly what's going to happen next. We don't know if this pandemic is going to continue like it has been over the past couple of weeks, or if it's going to slow down and we can kind of return to life as normal. So we're all kind of waiting just to see what the next steps are going to be. You know, the NFL draft's being canceled to a semi-private event that's still going to take place, but of course not the same party we all expected in Vegas. But, you know, that's obviously a big move, but it's not as big of a move as canceling the season or delaying the season or delaying free agency or anything like that. So, you know, we've seen some repercussions of the coronavirus in the NFL a little bit. Of course, the physicals are being held up. That's why I anticipate Cam Newton might have to wait a while before teams can really send their staff to check him out, see if he's 100% healthy, and you know, get him to sign on the dotted line. So it's going to be interesting to see how teams handle the NFL draft, those combine re-checkups, just kind of everything that goes into free agency in terms of how it indicates a player's health and how much that goes into their decision to sign them. So it's not been too crazy so far right now, but again, everyone's kind of on their toes to see what happens next.
On the phone with us, CBS Sports NFL writer Jordan Dajani. Jordan, let's say, and let's hope not, right? Let's hope for the best that the NFL season gets underway in early September, like always. But let me play devil's advocate. Let me say the season won't start until early maybe November. Does the NFL go to a 10-game season and lose money on the owner side and TV side, or do they just extend the season into March, April, May on the backside?
That's a good question, and to be honest with you, I don't know, but my guess would be that they would play the shortened season, because as soon as you elongate the season, you're going into the off season, right? So if you make the season a full 16 games, full 17 weeks, full postseason, you know, you're getting into your off-season schedule, right? That goes into free agency, the NFL draft, everything is hurried there. And the players don't really get a full offseason. So I'd have to imagine that they would just shorten the season. And to be honest with you, you know, there's probably people out there that are hoping this happens, because everyone is really kind of expecting the worst-case scenario, right? Yeah. I mean, I certainly am not, but I think a lot of people are. So, you know, if anything happens, I would expect a shortened season.
Let me ask you, with the new CBA, and it's weird going into the season with all of this, so 17 games, they've added a team in each conference into the playoffs. I saw that maybe they wanted to add 2 in each conference, but they went with 1, didn't get to the 18 as the owners might have wanted, got to 17. Give me your thoughts. Do you like the changes with the playoffs and the extra week?
You know, they're interesting. I certainly don't have a very strong opinion, but it gives the league versatility for what they want to do moving forward. So, for example, to add another playoff team sounds very sexy, right? But when you go back and look at what it would have been, what is it? It's like the Steelers versus, some second seed team, some matchup that was definitely not entertaining on paper.
Right.
So I don't have a problem with it. I hope that they won't expand it again. But when it comes to the 17 games, that's something to really keep an eye on, because the league can further globalize their product if they choose to. They could have every team play a neutral site game. They could have every team play at least one international game. You know, these are steps that the NFL is going to look at taking further on down the line, and setting themselves up with that extra game per season gives them the versatility and the opportunity to do so. So this is, they're spending money to make money, right? The NFL wants to continue to globalize its product. Adding an extra game to the schedule for every single team obviously gives them the chance to do so.
Well, and I think you're right. And just to put a exclamation point on it, I agree with you. It would have been the Steelers in the AFC, and it would have been the Rams in the NFC. And if you ask me, neither deserved to get in. And if you look back, I think someone said that, if it had been one more extra team over the last 4 or 5 years, like the Steelers would have got in almost every year that they didn't get in, because they were always one of the last teams out. I like it the way, and if they extend it one more, 2 in each conference, half of the league would actually make it to the playoffs. I just don't think it's a good idea. I love my wife's chicken wing dip, but if she made it for me every night, I'd get a little sick. I get we want more football, but this is a very physical sport. We talked to Mike Waffle, who's from Hornell, New York. He won a title as a defensive line coach with the Giants, coach with the Bills, the Rams, the Raiders. You know, he said the more these guys play, 18 games, even a playoff game is more intense than a regular season game. These guys are getting themselves beat up. The owners want more games. The players don't really want more games. So it's definitely something, as you mentioned, to keep an eye on. I think the goal is 18 regular season games is what I'm sure TV wants, the owners want, the advertisers want. But my heart does go out a little bit to the players. It's hard to say that when they make millions and millions and millions of dollars, but I know they do go through a lot of physical stuff. Want to get your perspective on the Bills offseason. They've been very, very active this offseason. Moves of note, the Norman move, the Mario Addison move, E.J. Gaines, Williams, also Jefferson, and then obviously the Stephon Diggs move as well. Give me your grade on the Buffalo Bills offseason so far.
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I'm not scared to say it's probably an A because I think some of the moves they've made on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, Quentin Jefferson's another guy who's coming off of a season in which he put up career numbers. He's somebody who at the very least can provide some great depth on this already impressive defensive line, right? Then, of course, you got Vernon Butler, a young guy. He again, just put up some career numbers with the Panthers. Mario Addison's a veteran. He knows how to get after the quarterbacks. He's made at least 9 sacks in each of the last 4 seasons. And, of course, the prize move, Stephon Diggs. You know, it has been a while since the Buffalo Bills had that true number 1 star NFL wideout, and that is only going to help Josh Allen's progression. This was a great team. They weren't maybe the most entertaining team to watch in 2019, but they had a great defense. They had a sound offense. They got to the postseason. They should have won that wild card game. This only helps this team moving forward. When you really look at their roster, it doesn't seem like there's any glaring needs on this team. So I think they're having a great offseason, continuing to maybe build and get a couple of playmakers around Josh Allen. I think they're going to do a lot better in 2020.
You know, these numbers are fluid. They move. The draft will change it, and some of the free agencies. Bills are at around 8.5 wins over under. Do you like them at that? Do you think? And where do you think the Bills will fall wins wise? And then we'll transition into your thoughts on the Patriots. Some places in Vegas have the Pats at 10 wins. Maybe they're not sure. Will it be Stidham? Are they gonna? Maybe you mentioned people are out on the open market for Cam Newton. Maybe Belichick's going to bring Newton in. Your thoughts on the Pats wins and the Bills wins this year?
Yeah, if you can get it at 8.5, I'll definitely take the over. I think that 10 is more of a realistic line. I think they went 10-6 last year, so I think that's a pretty good line there. I'll probably take the over on 8. Now, when it comes to the Patriots, I mean, they are a very interesting story, right? It seems like they want to go into the season having a quarterback battle with Brian Hoyer, Cody Kessler, and Jarrett Stidham. I don't know if that's 100% the case because I certainly would be interested in Cam Newton if I could get my guys around him to make sure that he's healthy and his shoulder still works, right? So it's going to be interesting to see if Bill Belichick wants to prove that he can find success with a quarterback no one else really thinks they could go to the postseason with, like a Brian Hoyer, like a Jarrett Stidham. We don't know exactly kind of what he's thinking, but we do know they have a great defense. It's almost going to be impossible for them to tank. There's no tank for Trevor Lawrence campaign out there because it's impossible. They're too good of a team.
Right.
But that being said, they could finish third in the division this year, which would obviously be very shocking.
Now that Tom Brady has finally vacated the AFC East, and I think they won 17 division titles in those 20 years, would you say right now, as the rosters are constituted for the Dolphins, the Jets, the Patriots, and the Bills, would you say the Bills are the prohibitive favorite to win the AFC East?
Yeah, I think the Bills probably should be considered the favorite, and I think that they definitely earned that right. I feel like they didn't get enough credit for what they did last year. People only remember them choking away in the playoff game, which isn't fair. This team is getting better. They've had a great offseason. They're going to surprise some people. But I would never say they're a shoo-in because there are some intriguing teams, right? The Miami Dolphins are another team that's had a pretty good offseason. They've had a lot of money, and they've been throwing it around. If they draft a quarterback like Tua, who knows how good Miami could be? They might be challenging the Bills for that one spot. And then, of course, the New York Jets. I don't know if they're just a complete mess, but they had some talent on that roster. I thought they were going to take a major step forward last year, but injuries to key guys like C.J. Mosley, Quinnen Williams, Sam Darnold, if they all can remain healthy, I mean, that team might be a solid 8-8. Who knows, maybe even a winning record team. So the Bills, it's all out there for them for the taking. They just have to make sure they take advantage of this opportunity.
On the phone with us, NFL writer for CBS Sports, Jordan Dejani. So, Jordan, I have a couple friends in the Boston market. They weren't shocked that Brady left. They were a little shocked that he went to the Bucks. He went from the best team over the last 20 years to the worst team over the last 50 when it comes to winning percentage. I was a little shocked. Maybe his market wasn't as big as maybe him and his agent Don Yee expected, although the money wasn't absolutely crazy. Indy went out and got Phillip Rivers for $25 in 1 year. Chargers decided to stick with Tyrod. Foles goes to Chicago as a safe bet for Trubisky. But they're telling me they think the Bucks will go 12-4, possibly 13-3, but Vegas has the Bucks coming in third behind New Orleans at, I think, 11 wins, Atlanta at 8, and the over/under on wins for the Bucks at 7.5. So, were you surprised that Brady went to the Bucks, and do you think they'll hit the over?
Yes, I was shocked he went to the Bucks. To be honest with you, I was shocked he left New England at all. A 40-something-year-old quarterback who's won like 6 Super Bowls. You know, he's Boston, he's Foxborough lore, right? I mean, this guy's an absolute legend. And to leave at this point in your career and go to a team that hasn't made the playoffs in over a decade, very shocked, absolutely shocked. And the other thing is, to be honest with you, to answer the second question, I don't understand how his playing style might fit the Buccaneers, right? Tom Brady's certainly not the gunslinger he was back in the day. Jameis Winston led the NFL in passing yards. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, O.J. Howard, these guys thrive off of the deep ball. Tom Brady thrives off of throwing the ball to his slot receiver and his running backs, right? So I'm interested to see how Bruce Arians is going to retool this offense, how he's going to retool this around Tom Brady's strengths. So to answer your second question, I would take over 7 wins, but I wouldn't be 100% confident in it. I would talk to your Boston friends. There's no way they're going 12-4, 13-3. I'd be absolutely shocked to see that. Tom Brady is one of the best players of all time, no doubt about it. But if you're telling me he's going to go to Tampa Bay and take this team from a non-playoff team to the number 1 seed in the NFC, I just simply don't see that happening.
And I think you're right. And I think they've been spoiled following him for so long and maybe making some decent players look really good, but as you mentioned, he has started to decline just a little bit, and so he can't make Matthew Lacrosse and guys in New England look as good as he once did. So it'll be interesting to see, and Tanner has hit on that point as well that you just mentioned. Tom has not thrown the football down the field since Randy Moss. So we don't know really what his long ball looks like anymore. I mean, they tried that a couple years ago when they brought in the Cooks, but they still didn't really air it out very much. So I think that will be a definitely interesting thing. And, you know, I like Bruce Arians, but, you know, Belichick was really good at making something out of nothing when it came to his defense and his game planning. And so, you know, I think both Brady and Belichick helped each other out, obviously on the field and off the field. So as of right now, it looks like the draft is going to happen. You mentioned the Bills roster looks pretty good right now. No major glaring holes. What would you expect them to do here in the upcoming draft? What needs, what positions do you think they're going to try to go after?
Yeah, you know, it's just the best problem to have if you're an NFL team heading into the draft. You don't exactly have to draft from need, from a position perspective, right? You can kind of really sit back and evaluate these players for the talent they have and register where you think you should take them in the draft. So that's a really good spot to be in, of course. Now, when it comes to looking at a position, I would like to see the Bills maybe get another playmaker they could match with John Brown and Stephon Diggs. I think that wouldn't hurt at all. I'm interested to see what they kind of do at the running back position. Now, you know, are they comfortable rolling with the 3 or 4 guys they got right now? But then the edge rusher, like you said, it's always good to beef up that defensive line. And the Bills have the potential to have one of the best defenses in the NFL. So a young edge rusher would be ideal. And then, hey, how about a cornerback too? I love drafting cornerbacks. I think it's an underrated part of your defense. Obviously, you got guys like Tre'Davious White and Taron Johnson, who I'm big fans of. But adding another quarterback to that mix would just at least add that depth somebody who's young and can come in and learn under these veterans. I think that would obviously go well for your defense at large.
On the phone with us, Jordan Dejani, NFL writer for CBS Sports, CBSSports.com. You can follow him on Twitter at Jordan Dejani. That's JordanDajani. Let's wrap up with a three-play parlor, shall we? I'll give you three. You give me your best bet and guess, okay? Here we go. Who will win a Super Bowl first? And we have to go on the premises one of them will. Tom Brady or Bill Belichick? Second, who is the next big free agent to go, and where do they go? And three, does Eli Manning get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
Okay, so for the Super Bowl question, I think you're going to have to roll with Bill Belichick. And this will explain why. Tom Brady probably has 2 more years left playing, right? 2 or 3. When it comes to Bill Belichick, football is all he's known. Football is all he cares about. He could have another decade maybe. So he just by playing the numbers, Bill Belichick has a better chance. When it comes to the next free agency move, that's a really good question. I feel like it's going to have to do with Cam Newton, though. Where he goes, it could be surprising. I mean, for some reason, I'm thinking about Chicago, and I know they just traded for Nick Foles, but they didn't have to trade much away to get him. What if they brought Cam Newton in and had a 3-way race in Chicago? I think that would be pretty interesting. So definitely keeping an eye on the quarterbacks what Jameis Winston and Cam Newton are going to do, but it's totally impossible to predict what's going to happen.
And Eli Manning, Hall of Fame or no?
I'm going to say yes. It's a great debate to have, but I feel like when players retire, we start to go over like all the accomplishments they had over the course of their careers, and we kind of miss them when they're not playing football anymore. And when you kind of look back, Eli Manning has some pretty incredible accomplishments. We'll remember those Super Bowls he won with the Giants. I feel like he's going to become, more and more of a legend as time passes. We're going to forget about the past couple of years where he was not a very good quarterback on the field for the Giants. So I'm going to say that at one point or another, Eli Manning will get into the Hall of Fame.
Great job, Jordan. Do you have your plans? Do you have week 1 opening week of the NFL? Do you know where you're going to be already, or is that a wait and see for you?
Total wait and see. We have no idea. Like I said, we're kind of in unprecedented times, so we're just taking it one step as we can, day by day, hitting everything we can free agency-wise. So definitely check that out on our work on CBSSports.com.
Jordan, terrific. We appreciate you giving us a few minutes of your time. And be healthy, my friend, and hopefully we'll get to talk soon.
Anytime. Thank you.
There you go. Jordan Dejani, NFL writer for CBS Sports and the CBS Sports Network. Great follow on Twitter at Jordan Dejani. That's JordanDajani. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll try to give you a chance to win. We've got Tanner's trivia question. We'll give you the answer to that. And we've got Today in Sports History. And we'll wrap this thing up and get out of here. It's 92-1 the team. Happy almost noon, everybody.
Railhead Brewery on Park Drive in Hornell is open for takeout today, noon to 7 p.m. After you place an order, pull right up outside Railhead on Park Drive in Hornell, and a Railhead employee will bring your favorite pizza or beer right out to your vehicle. Railhead, they're accepting orders right till 7 p.m. Call ahead 324-3286. Order online, railheadbrewing.com.
Maple City Savings wants the Hornell area to know they are here to assist you with your banking needs even in these uncertain times. Their ATMs are available 24/7 for withdrawals and deposits. Their drive-ups remain open for deposits, withdrawals, and loan payments during normal hours. Over the phone, they can assist with any issues related to purchases, online transactions, loan payment transfers, and debit card processing questions. Phone 607-324-1822. With online banking at MapleCitySavings.com, they offer commercial ACH transfers, bill pay, e-statements, mobile and merchant deposits, and so much more. They even offer online deposit account openings for existing and new customers. Also online, you'll be able to complete a mortgage application or request a pre-qualification so you can shop for your new home. They've been serving the local community since 1906 and are here to stay. Maple City Savings Bank, FDIC insured, and an equal housing lender. With some recent revisions,
Our certificate sale is still going on. Save up to 50% off your favorite restaurant or local business. Pay online and we'll ship the certificates to you at no extra charge. Go to www.921theteam.com and click on certificate sale. Buy the certificate you want and request that they be shipped. Let us help you save money. And thanks for listening to 92.1 The Team.
It's the Joel Oriend Show.
Do you have any special skills?
Oh, yes. I do. I do voices.
What do you mean you do voices?
Well, I do voices.
Yes!
We've come to this planet looking for intelligent life. Oops, we made a mistake.
Oh, happy to be in America. Don't ask for a green card.
I want you in the worst way.
Well, it's certainly a rough meeting, and it's not going very well for me, I'll tell you that. Hey, boss, give it a chance. She's going to loosen up any moment. Look at me right now, Moneypenny. I want to undo that bow and get to know you.
I'm crazy to make a deal with you. Nancy and I are still looking for the other half of my head. You idiot! You're doing it! I'm sitting on a gold mine!
Don't make me smack you, sweetheart. I'll do it. Figaro. I do a great impression of a hot dog.
Do you consider yourself humorous?
I used to. There was a time when I found myself funny. But today, you have proven me wrong. Thank you.
On 92.1 The Team.
Classic movie right there, Mrs. Doubtfire. Hello! That's about the only impression I can do. I can probably do a Rocky and a Bill Clinton, but it's probably not worth your time. We're going to give you a chance here to win, okay? Going to give you a little contest here, giveaway, all right? Reverse radio, we're calling it, okay? We're reaching out to you, okay? You want to talk old school, all right? I feel bad for the people that, put these things together, and for the people that still pay for landlines, right? I mean, if you're going to pay for a landline, you might as well get rewarded, right? So we have the phone book, folks, okay? And let me tell you, it is as thick as a menu anymore, okay?
Tanner, why don't you go ahead and pick a number and go ahead and dial someone here, and let's see if we can get somebody on the line to play a little radio listener family feud, if we can, okay? Let's see if we can get somebody on the line.
Please wait while we connect your phone call.
All right. Good deal.
Should have Kevin on the line here.
Okay.
Hello. Please leave a message.
All right, you can hang up. It's all right. Go ahead and pick another number here. Let's see if we can get someone on the line and give them a chance to win. Who might this be?
This would be Ryan.
We connect your...
Okay.
Hi.
So we've struck out again. Get somebody else on the line, Tanner. Dial up somebody else. Flip through the book randomly. Pick a number for reverse radio as we reach out to you. All right, have you found someone?
Yes, we will try Harold from Hornell.
All right, Harold from Hornell. Let's see.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system.
He's gone. Another swing and a miss. Another strike. We'll move on to another one. Randomly pick another person out of the phone book, Tanner, and let's dial someone else up. We could be here, quite frankly, all day.
Now, what's the name of this person?
Gary from Bath.
Okay.
Hello, we are not available now.
Okay, 3 strikes. We're out. I give up. We're running out of time today. We still got to do the trivia question. We've got to do today in sports history. So we're gonna have to wrap this thing up. Let's give the trivia answer here today, Tanner. Go ahead and give the question one more time.
Who was the first Major League Baseball player to pitch a ball over 100 miles an hour?
Can you give me the decade?
It was 19 in the 70s.
In the 70s. I'm thinking either like Goose Gossage or Ron Guidry or somebody like that.
Nope, Nolan Ryan.
Oh, Nolan Ryan.
In a game against the Chicago White Sox on September 7th, 1974, California Angels pitcher Nolan Ryan became the first player to surpass the 100-mile-per-hour mark when one of his pitches officially clocked in at 100.8 miles per hour.
Wow, I forgot about the Ryan Express. All right, let's do today in sports history, and then we can boot Scoot Boogie on out of here.
Today, in 1937, Joe DiMaggio took Ty Cobb's advice and replaced his 40-ounce bat with a 36-ounce bat. In 1945, DePaul won the NIT basketball championship. George Mikan had 34 points. In 1973, in the 35th NCAA men's basketball championship, UCLA beat Memphis 81-76. The Bruins won their 7th straight title. Future Hall of Fame center Bill Walton was the tournament most outstanding player for the second consecutive year. In 1974, George Foreman TKO's Ken Norton in 2 for the heavyweight boxing title in Caracas, Venezuela. In 1979, in the 41st NCAA men's basketball championship, Michigan State beat Indiana State 75-64, marked the start of the rivalry between future Hall of Famers Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. It was the highest-rated game in the history of televised college basketball. Also, on this day, born in 1962, was Hall of Fame point guard, the all-time leader in assists in the NBA, John Stockton.
All right, that does it for us. I want to thank all of our guests today. Greg Allman from The Athletic. Don't forget, right now, 90-day free trial to check out The Athletic. Go to theathletic.com and subscribe for free for 90 days. Eric Eager from Pro Football Focus. We appreciate him coming on. You can check him out at PFF_Eric on Twitter, at PFF.com, and with the PFF Forecast podcast. And finally, an NFL writer from CBS Sports, Jordan DeJani. That does it for us, everybody. We've done enough damage for today. Try to give you another chance to win next week. Hopefully we'll have somebody on from NASCAR. Maybe we'll have John Murphy on, the Murph, to talk Bills next weekend as well. Be good. If not, have fun trying. We'll catch you on the flip side. I'm gone.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes today's broadcast. Thank you for listening to my son, because without you listening, he would still be living at home.
Caleb Oriend. Good night, everybody. Thanks for listening. Be good.
Just a bit outside. He tried the corner in this.
I had a Honda. It was a two-seater. And Lou Brown said,
Give him a heater.
when I'm at work, my GM's name is Peter. So Lou Brown said,
Give him a heater.
When I had a flu, I was running a fever. And Lou Brown said,
Give him a heater.
Head or gut, which way? I said neither. So Lou Brown said,
Give him a heater. I don't know.
Forget the curveball, Ricky, and give him the heater.
4. Ball 8. Low and on has walked the bases loaded on 12 straight pitches.
I don't know. Forget the curveball, Ricky, and give him the heater.
Talk to you later.